A 17-year-old has been charged with murder and attempted murder following a knife attack in Southport on Monday. 6-year-old BB King, 7-year-old Elsie Dot Stankham and 9-year-old Alice De Silva Aguiar were attending a Taylor Swift-themed dance class when they were killed. 8 other children and 2 adults were also injured. A teenager who cannot be named because of his age is due to appear at Liverpool Magistrates Court this morning. He is charged with 3 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder. In a press conference last night, Merseyside Police issued a reminder that the investigation is ongoing.
It is extremely important that there should be no reporting, commentary or sharing of information online which could in any way prejudice these proceedings. Our thoughts remain with families of all those affected by these harrowing events.
Well, the attack has prompted reaction across the country, including violent clashes in Southport on Tuesday night. Merseyside Police said more than 50 police officers were injured and 5 people arrested. Our reporter John Maguire has been to Southport to hear how the local community is dealing with the aftermath.
Once again, this community is responding. Just hours after they stood shoulder to shoulder in silence at Monday night's vigil, they came together once more, just as determined to help a neighbour.
We take it down to you, or do you want to start on these?
I'm just cleaning these off and then just cleaning all these ones
no
off. Well, I think everybody's just coming together and trying to help everybody out. I think it's been brilliant the last couple of days. Just last night ruined it. It's just not what Southport's about, what last night was. And I don't think half the people who were here rioting last night were from Southport.
Volunteers from the building trade were going house to house, offering their time and their expertise. Walls that had been torn down by the mob being rebuilt by the community.
We heard about what had been going on and obviously saw the state that people had caused to the area. And we got in contact this morning because I'm from Ormsgate branch and Clairvaic's in the Southport one, so we just wanted to come together and just donate some of our stock that'll help clear up the area for them, bring the community together.
What sort of stuff have you got in there?
Just like gloves, ton bags, rubble sacks, flexi tubs, just things that will help carry and move the stuff away.
There was 3 families, devastated, and they're organising funerals and for their loved ones. And we should be grieving and we should be left alone. And they come from various parts of the northwest and they behave like that. And I just think it's just awful. It really is. You know, they need to look at themselves and say, should I really be honouring a child's memory by smashing up somebody's house? Well, no, not really. It's terrible.
The rioters had used social media at its very worst, but the response from locals shows its best side, as calls for supplies and help were answered.
Really was humbling. It's, I've seen it bring tears to my eyes, because although I know people of Southport and I know how beautiful they are, but this was still, a moving experience. I will pray for the whole of Southport. I will pray for the victims of the awful attack on Monday, and I will pray for the police, and I will pray for the whole community to stay as beautiful as they've always been.
Police officers, described as heroic by the mother of one of Monday's young victims, walked the streets that the night before they had fought to defend. Above, firefighters helped to repair the mosque's shattered windows, and everywhere, random acts of kindness, pizzas, donated, then offered around, a small gesture of appreciation. Just saw you drop off some pizzas?
Yeah, I'm from the dog grooming shop down the road. I just think it's horrific. The sort of depths that people will sink man's inhumanity to man is, I can't fathom it. I cannot understand. I drove past when the mob was gathering yesterday, and I cannot possibly understand how people can hate other people because of religion, colour, creed, whatever. We're all just people. And I think it's been amazing to see the show of solidarity between all of the residents here, showing all the support to the people at the mosque, the people at the poor mini-mart in the corner, everyone who's been affected. It breaks my heart.
Not far away, Near the scene of the attack, the tributes continue to build. Families with young children, just like those who were killed. Southport has endured the worst times imaginable, but despite those who've set out to destroy, there are many more here, prepared to stop them and prepared to help and support each other. John Maguire, BBC News, Southport.
We're joined now by Newsround presenter Ricky Boleto to tackle the subject of how you explain this to children. Do you know, Ricky, when we've spoken, I always think it's so much easier for us here when we're broadcasting to adults, you know, be it on the radio or here, because we can tell the story straight and adults can figure out a way to put this in a place. Whereas for children, it's unfathomable.
It's really difficult. It's been a shocking week, and I think we've all got the images of those three beautiful girls on our minds. And it's been very tricky trying to tell this story because a lot of children will be worried about going to summer camps potentially, and a lot of children will be hearing some grisly detail as well online, reading about it or watching videos on TikTok and Instagram. So it's important. We've written up the story and we've tried to give the facts without giving too much detail, not using language like horror, being very conscious about the images that we're using as well. But at the same time, it's a really tricky one for parents because a lot of 8-, 9-year-olds will be hearing about this at home. And how do you talk to kids about it?
How do you use words such as stabbing or, you know, knife attack, or when the details are very scant at the moment, and rightly so, and also the idea of when children say, well, they were in a dance class, why?
Yeah. So we have to be very, very clear. We can't, you know, pretend, use different language. You know, at the end of the day, we have to give those facts. We're a news programme. But we do have to be very mindful to remind the kids that these events are incredibly rare. They don't happen often. And we have to try and look at the good. Often in events like these, something so sad, something quite positive, comes out of it. You know, we've seen the donations pouring in, so we're focusing on that. We've seen all the help that's been on hand, the community coming together. And I think advice for parents right now, if they have kids who maybe have some questions, and they often happen at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, you know, when they're going to bed, these questions just rush out, is to check in with them, make sure your kids are okay, try and reassure them where you can. This is a very sad story, and it's okay to be sad by what you see and hear in the news, but also parents should be quite mindful about what they have in the background right now, you know, whether it's on breakfast, whether it's on the radio. Some of the details are really scary and frightening, and so just be mindful that kids might hear some of that information and that may be upsetting for them.
It can be very challenging, can't it, Ricky? Because as you will know very well from work, and also, I presume, personally as well, because you have children yourself, children often ask very direct questions, maybe more so than adults, that they want to know what happened. They want to know how someone died. They want to know very clear answers to things. And that can be, it can catch you off guard. It can come, as you say, it could come at any time. They could be doing something happy and then they answer. And they don't want to be fobbed off. You know, they want an answer.
Yeah.
And it can be really challenging.
It's not something you can brush off. You have to engage with them. You have to have that conversation if it's something that they want to talk about and discuss. And we've been very mindful at Newsround, you know, not to go straight to Southport and speak to kids because a lot of them are traumatised right now and will be going through some really serious stuff and they'll be getting the specialist care and attention. But it's not really appropriate for us to do that. You know, a lot of these kids will be going back to school without their friends. So with your kids, if they have those questions, I think the Newsround website is a great resource. We've written the story there. If they want to show their kids and read it together, talk it through together, that's a really good way to help them to understand what's happened.
Also, I think you've made the point that TikTok, online, you know, social media, that is where a lot of children are getting their news.
Yeah.
Although they may see us in the background or a bulletin in the background, that's where they're finding it. So it's about a digestible... Getting the news in a digestible way, because it's all very well you saying we've written it up, but if you're 6, you know, and you're asking questions, you're not going to be able to read the whole story.
So exactly, the conversation also to have is like, if you're going on TikTok or Instagram, you know, or Snapchat, there's going to be footage on there at the moment that might be quite disturbing. So reminding your kids about what they're watching and making sure that you do check in with kids and ask them what they've been seeing, because a lot of the time, you know, it's the summer holidays, kids are on their phones, mum and dad are busy, we're not always there and able to watch over everything that they do. So check in right now, I think at the end of this week, and just see how they are.
And we want them to be engaged with news. Yes, there's bad stuff that happens, but there's interesting stuff that happens. We don't want them to be afraid of the news.
Yeah, absolutely. There's way into every story here. I mean, it's important, I think, that children do engage with it. That's why we're covering it on Newsround. But the most important thing that we can do right now is look at all of the efforts, and there have been so many, to help these children and to help that community after such a tragic event.
Ricky, interesting talking to you. When's your next broadcast?
Well, I've been on this morning, so we've just been on air, literally ran over from the other studio to you this morning, and we're back on air tomorrow morning at 7:40, and the Newsround website has got all the top stories as well if families want to
I'm sure people are hearing what you're saying now, really getting an impression of how seriously you take the responsibility of how you share the news. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricky. Ricky Boleto there.